Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie Caston. I am your host of the Privilege Show After Talks. This is a debate style show where we discuss different topics every week. Today's topic is when to tell. Later on, we'll be joined by our guest, Jay, and he will give his input on what he feels about each topic. So there are subtopics. One, we're going to talk about sexuality, mental health, and finances. Today, I have my guest, Jordan Coley. She is a wife, welder, mother of two, and she is going to give her insight as of right now about how she feels about each of these topics. So, Jordan, was there anything else you would like to let our audience know right now?
Sure. I went to school in Minnesota. I actually originally studied political science and criminal justice, and I received my criminal justice degree in 2016 after I had both my babies back to back. And so I had two under two real quick. They were 11 months apart, and I've been married for 5 years. We've been together for 6 years. And I think you mentioned me writing, right?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. You are a writer as well.
Yes. So I've been dabbling in more so nonfiction. I'm sorry, fiction. Sometimes I mix those up, but more so fiction. And then I mainly write poetry though. Poetry is my first love since I was probably like 8 years old. But now I'm starting to actually write, and I realize how tough it is. It's not as easy as I used to think it was.
Wait, is it poetry not easy or writing anything else not easy?
Writing like novels, writing short stories, that's not as easy from putting your thoughts actually onto paper and making it make sense. Sometimes in order, chronological order even. It doesn't always work out the way that you thought it in your imagination. So it's a little harder than writing poetry. Poetry is like cadences, maybe flows, and maybe it doesn't have to make sense. But writing, it has to flow and make sense. Writing novels and short stories.
Absolutely, because when I write, I do more screenwriting than anything, and you have to have a beginning, middle, and end. You have to flesh out your characters. They all have to have character arcs. Like you said, it has to flow. It all has to make sense, or else people are like, well, it started this way and it ended this way, and I don't know if I like that or not. And that's how TV shows get canceled, because it seems like they get too ahead of their bridges. Because if I wrote something out only for one season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 may not even make sense, because in my mind, I already know how it began and ends. But for example, the TV show Lost, the writers were like, you know what, we made a mistake. I mean, not so much we made a mistake, but that last season didn't make sense because we got greenlit to do more seasons, but we already knew how it was going to end. So now it's just all conjumbled. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. It is pretty difficult. But we can go ahead and we can get started with these topics. Topic 1 is sexuality. So
Yes.
the theme is when to tell. Now, can you go into details a little bit about what you identify as?
Okay, I identify as, let me get my terms right, because there's a lot, lot of ways to identify. But let's see. So I identify as a woman, so cisgendered woman, okay. And I identify as bisexual. So I enjoy, like, and want relationships with both men and women. I can't go any further because I guess this is going to be controversial what I say, but I couldn't identify as pansexual because I don't find yet that I am trans attracted, or I've never actually been in a situation where I had to engage with a person that was trans. So for now, I have to say I'm bisexual because I've never met a person who was trans and I was engaging with them on an intimate level. So I haven't been able to identify as pan, but and I don't know if
before you go on, can you define for our viewers what pansexual is, or in your best description of what you define as pansexual?
What I've learned, what I've understood and comprehended as much as I could, pansexual is just being attracted to pretty much anyone, however they are. That's whether they are gay, straight, cisgendered, or otherwise, whether they are trans. It's just liking the person for who they are, where they are, and not having another preference. You don't strictly like heterosexual, cisgendered people. You like people, whoever they are, however they identify, and that can change day to day.
Right, and because I know Janelle Monáe, she says she's pansexual, and the best definition I saw on television was from the TV show Schitt's Creek, and they said they used the analogy of wine. It's not the label on the wine; it's what's inside the bottle. So it's like you said, straight, gay, male to female, female to male. It's all about on the inside. So, yeah, thank you for that. But you said you haven't met anyone yet that, you have had that connection with to label yourself that.
Right. So in all its simplicity, I would be bisexual because I've only dealt with cisgendered people, woman and man.
And then can you even elaborate on what cisgender is? Because that's the newer term that I haven't heard a lot of, but I know that's going around. But to clarify what your understanding of what cisgender is.
Yes, my understanding of what cisgendered is you identify with the gender you were assigned at birth.
Okay.
So if you were born and given girl, you continue to identify as a girl.
Copy. So my first question is, how long into the relationship before you tell that person that you're dating about your dating
path? I guess for me, it would be whenever they ask. But in my experiences, either I've dealt with men and women who did not care to discuss it because the past is the past. And, a lot of people are very possessive and jealous. So they really don't want to hear about you being with someone and how that was. So I would say for me, it would just be simply when you, or if you ask, but that would be followed up by, why do you want to know? Because I feel like some people don't need to know because they'll either use it against you later or they'll feel intimidated if you said something good or that you enjoyed. So I would have to be followed up by the question of what's the purpose or what is your intention on finding out. So I just think when they ask is a better time than just volunteering.
And since this is more of a debate show, I'm going to take the opposite of that. I'm going to take the right away. I guess you have to find a way to discuss your past because it may be off-putting. The worst thing that you want is to get feelings for someone and then they say, wow, you've been with that many people? It could be too many or it could be a very little amount. So that it's better to get it right away. That way there's no confusion and then that person can walk away before any feelings get developed. And to counter to your why do you want to know is because nowadays a lot of people don't take into consideration whether it's religion, whether it's STDs. And so I would like to know right away if, well, this is not my personal opinion, but I would like to know that, I've been with 50 different women. He's been with 50 different women. And it's like, oh, wow, you're way more experienced than I am. And I don't even know if that correlates with my beliefs religiously. Will that correlates with my, have you been safe with those people? Did you use a condom with all those people? Is it, because if you have some type of an addiction, more than likely you're probably going to be experimental and not use protection. So that raises any red flags for my own protection.
Right, I can see that. 1 second, baby. I can see that, but I mean, I have asked about statuses, or I need paperwork. I didn't need to care because you could have been with 2 people and they could have been nasty as far as bodily, not nasty like having, I don't think that if you have a virus or an STD, you're nasty, but they could be careless with how they were, and then he or she contracted something and they were not technically careless. It's the people they were with. So I could just ask for paperwork without having to know how many were involved or your past experiences. I think that honestly, I really don't care about, what people on the internet classify as body counts. I more so care about your trauma, like were you abused or cheated on? Because that will roll over for us. Not so much your body count or who you were physically involved with prior, because that can easily be taken care of with a trip to the clinic or paperwork, but not if you were traumatized.
Now,
that's going to directly affect you.
Now, to go on to your paperwork, when do you ask for that paperwork? Are you a month into it? Because what if you're really connecting with that person and you're like, you know what, 2 weeks in, let me see your paperwork. How most recently does your paperwork have to be? Or how much are you getting intimate with that person where you ask paperwork?
Well, in 2 of my relationships, because I've been in 3 relationships with men. And in the first 2, one, he presented them. He just put that out there. So he helped me to understand that was basically something that you should do. The second one, I didn't have sex with him right away. So when I felt comfortable enough to have sex, then I asked first. With my spouse, I didn't ask until later after we had already been intimate, because it just kind of happened that fast, which, that happens too, so it was after the first time that we were sexually intimate that I asked, might be too late, but I just need to know, some clarity on what you're looking like on paper. So it was after the first time. So I've experienced all 3, someone presented to me first, me asking before we got there, and then me asking after. So I think that.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Since all of those were with men, what about with women? Do you have a different approach or stance to women?
I think so. Some people have said to me that, I don't know if this is medically true, but some people have said to me that it's harder for women to transmit viruses and infections, STDs. However, sorry, my 4-year-old wants to introduce herself.
Okay.
Come on, introduce yourself.
Hey.
Hi.
What is your name?
Julia.
Julia. It's Stephanie. But we're in the middle of doing a show right now, so I will talk to you later, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry. However, I've heard that it's harder for women to transmit viruses and infections. So a lot more women are lax. But again, it's almost been the same way. But I would say from my experiences, the women have been more upfront with me before we become intimate. I've never had anything, and that's what they'll say to me. I've never had anything. I've never, encountered that, and I'm putting that out there so that you would know. So it's like I've been more trustworthy, and much like any experience, I've always experienced women being a little bit more cleaner. So oftentimes I am more lenient with women. So unless I had any indication to think that there was something off, like a smell or something, I trust it. And that may not be the best. I'm not saying that's a good method, but me personally, I've always trusted, and most of the time they volunteer that they're okay. I go by that. And I think that it also depends on who you're dealing with. Like you said, if you're dealing with someone who has an addiction, then yeah, you need to be more concerned about it. But I feel like most people, if they have something to lose, they're most likely not out here, just reckless with themselves either, especially women with children who want to live to see their children. We tend to care. So, and be more prompt about our bodily changes or functions.
Okay. Now, once we find out all this information, should we stick it out if it's wilder than we expected? If the next person you dated or potentially dated was like, you know what, my number is at 2, or my number was at 102, should we stick it out?
I don't care about body counts. I never have. It's not an indicator of anything other than, and I'm barely out of my 20s. I'm just 30. So it was just an indicator of you enjoying your 20s. Unless, like you said, you told me it was an addiction. Then I would need some more answers, but I don't care. If I heard 102, I would have to see paperwork, but I don't care. So I would go right around it. I might tease you because that's how I am, but I might tease you and be like, good Lord, like, when did you eat? When did you eat food anyway? Because clearly you was doing something, but
we're in our 30s, but there are some that have like pretty wild college days. But I'm gonna take the opposite of that. I'm gonna say that if I heard that it's going to be wild, I may dip out because I care about body counts. Because, like, you know what? I don't think I'm, at this point, you sound like you have an addiction, and I'm just another body to you. Because I guess that since I'll ask it right away, then I would have to decide, okay, well, that number's pretty high. Your paperwork's clean. Your the number is pretty high. So should I think I might just dip. Because that's...
But what if they're looking for something? Like, they tell you, hey, that was me. But me now, I'm looking for something deeper. Because, people wake up one day and realize they want something different. They want a change. They want maybe something deeper. So if they're looking for something deeper, and then you guys haven't even engaged in sex yet, so you would have to kind of figure, okay, maybe I'm not just another body. Because if you were just another body, then you would have been a body, right?
True.
I understand. But even if you want something different, it just depends, because out of all of those people, you didn't think to have anything deeper. Not one of those person was deep, because we're talking. Let's say there's someone in their 30s, mid-30s, like we're ranging from teenagers to 36. So it's like, okay, well, like, let's do the math right here. What's 100? Wait, I can't even do the math. Like,
if you start having sex at 14, and we're talking what, 30?
Yeah, like 20 plus years, 22 years or something like that.
That's 30 to 14 is what's 16 years. So 16 years. So 100 divided by 16 on average. How many bodies is that a year?
Yeah, that's 6 bodies a year.
That is not hard. As a teenager and in your 20s, that's almost not impossible.
What did we start at? We started at 14 and we started at 16 years old.
We started at 14.
So because 14, I think you're a sophomore in high school. So from your sophomore year in high school all the way to your 36, you're telling me you could not find not one meaningful relationship. And it's like,
you weren't looking for it. I honestly, in my teenage years, did not have a boyfriend. But also I was raised very religious. So I wasn't really necessarily allowed to have a boyfriend. But I didn't have one and I wasn't interested. Even when I could have snuck and got one, I was like, you know what? It looks like too much work. You know, you had to hold hands in the hallway between classes and go places with them. It just seemed like a lot of work at that time for me. And then as an adult in my early 20s, I didn't have a boyfriend either. I had one at 22. But I didn't start seriously dating until I really got with my husband at 25. So, I met him at 24. So, I mean, I didn't have it in me to hold a relationship and be faithful. I didn't have it. So, I could have easily caught 6 bodies in a year. I don't think I have. But easily, you can rack up 3 in first quarter of the year. So, I mean, it's not hard, especially a guy, you know.
okay.
One night stands, clubbing and partying, it happens. You can meet people in casinos, take them upstairs. You can hit up people in the bathroom at a party, in the club bathrooms. I done seen a lot in my day. I done seen a lot. So you could easily wake up from drinking all night and be like, what happened?
And I just want to introduce our 2 new guests on here. I have JB and Dev. Hi, you guys. I'm the host, Stephanie. On here, I have my cousin. I didn't introduce us as my cousin Jordan. And right now, since the topic today is when to tell, right now we're focusing on sexuality. And the first question was, how long into the relationship before you start telling, your dating past? And then Jordan said that she asked for paperwork. So hers was that, it doesn't really matter and only if they ask. And then I said right away, as far as the second question, what you came in on is, should we stick it out if it's wilder than expected? So let's just say the person that you're dating is like, you know what, I've slept with 102 people. But their paperwork is clean. They don't have any STDs. Should we stick it out? I said, I'm out. Jordan says, what if they're looking for a meaningful relationship? And we were doing the math because I'm like, well, 6 bodies since the age of 14, that's a lot. And you can't tell me that they didn't find that one meaningful, person. So let's start off with you, JB. You tell me, should that person stick it out if they found out that the body count is really high?
Well, I'm one to believe that what's in the past is in the past. So I do understand that we all have our past and everything like that. But I honestly believe that the person is completely honest and transparent to their past and what they experienced, and maybe even gives a little bit of the reason on why the body count is so high. Because some people want to know, like, how do you gain such a high body count without there being like an addiction to sex or trauma that you're going through that makes it that high. So as long as the person is authentic in their approach of being honest and letting you know why it was like that, me personally, I feel like I would be able to get past it.
Okay.
I would just need more information.
Okay, and you, Dev, what are your thoughts?
I definitely echo JB in the sense of like, what's in the past is in the past, right? Like I have a body count, so I can't judge you for having one, right? I think I would have, the biggest thing I'll take away from it is that my potential partners being honest with me, right? And letting me know up front, like, okay, I messed with 102 people in the past. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm surprised you kept count. Like,
Right.
so I would appreciate the honesty more than the body count itself, right? So but I definitely echo JB in the sense of we have a pass.
Absolutely.
Okay. And just as a, upfront, because it is about sexuality, Jordan said earlier she identifies with B on the rainbow. If either one of you guys can tell us if you identify with the rainbow or if you don't, that's up to you. Just let us know.
Yes, I identify with the rainbow.
Okay. What letter are you?
Oh, Q.
Q. Is
Queer.
that question queer? Okay.
There's two Qs, right? That's why people always joke and say that, but there's two Qs in LGBTQIA plus whatever. But I'm queer. Yes, I'm a queer Black man.
Can you? I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but then what's the difference between gay and queer?
So queer is an umbrella term, right? I don't identify as gay specifically only because I can see myself with a woman, maybe not emotionally, but I would be open to, if like we want to play and have fun, I can do that with a woman. But I don't foresee myself being with a woman long term. And for that reason, that's why I identify as queer. And then, there's pansexual and stuff as well, but like, I'm just like, I'm really, and I'm into everything.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And, we did discuss earlier what pansexual was, and Jordan said she doesn't identify with that yet. So.
Okay. Yeah.
And then how about you, JB? Do you want to tell us? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like Dev and Jordan, I actually am a letter on the rainbow as well. Right now, I'm kind of like Dev in a sense. I want to kind of label myself as queer because my lifestyle, people would say is gay. So I do partake in the gay lifestyle, dealing with mostly men. But I also want to emphasize the fact that that's my life right now. So I think it's important, just like, and this is a whole nother different discussion, but just like a lot of women personally that I've had in my life that have been able to like dib and dabble in bisexuality and then end up in heterosexual relationships and get married and everything like that. I want to still keep that space open for myself. So right now in this space of my life, I identify, I guess you can say, with gay. But I'll just say in this space of my life right now, because I'm really open, just like Dev says, like I'm down to have fun, like I could turn up, it is what it is, so.
And I thank you for that clarification because I don't identify with the rainbow, but I am an ally, and I'm trying to keep track on what to say, what not to say, and the definitions, because the last thing I want to do is insult anyone. So I do appreciate all these clarifications because me, I just thought that queer would have been the same as bi. So I don't thank you for clarifying all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And asking is what we have to do, right? We're still learning within the community with ourselves.
In addition to that, giving people room to understand. It's space to understand instead of being quick to attack when someone gets it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then I will piggyback off of this topic of the definitions. Do you label someone after an experience? So let's just say you happen to have, if I'm heterosexual, I identify as heterosexual, and then I have an encounter with a woman after that one experience, should I label myself on the rainbow? Because I feel if I do that, then I might be insulting the people who really say, well, no, I really am bisexual. I see myself in a relationship. Do you guys label someone after one instance?
I don't.
You don't?
I was gonna give Jordan, because I feel like I've been talking a lot. I was gonna give the opportunity to chime in.
Oh, before you guys got on, I was running my mouth. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. label someone after one experience. No, because 9 times out of 10, most people who identify with the LGBT plus community, they had experiences before that were heterosexual. So they found, or they were fluid. So they began to discover and figure it out. So no, if I was dealing with a man who said that he had slept with a man prior once, I wouldn't be like, oh, you're bi. No, he was trying to figure it out. So, and he figured out that that wasn't what he wanted. And people are not in a box. You know, people are complex, people are interesting, and people are a wide range of things. So no, I couldn't label someone off of one experience at all.
Okay. How about you, Dev?
No, same, ditto. I mean, I don't feel like it would be fair for, especially someone that identifies as queer, for me to label someone or judge someone out after having one experience with someone of the opposite sex, right? And I think that should be the way that someone that is heterosexual to move as well. So I definitely echo and agree with Jordan's stance on it.
And JB, how about your stance?
Yeah, I agree with the other two. I definitely don't. I mean, I know it may sound cliche, but I'm at a point where I'm just like, just forget all the labels. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just separates us so much, and it doesn't give people room to kind of experience or, you know, to experiment or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I agree with Jordan and Deb with that. Like, I definitely would never label nobody of anything. If I did have that conversation, I'd be like, oh, they were curious. You know, they were curious, so they tried it, you know, but that would be the only type of word I would even throw out when it comes to somebody trying something for the first time or once.
Now, this is, to play devil's advocate, this is different than what the myth is, because a heterosexual man say, oh, you know, you kissed a guy, you did this, you're gay. That is the myth in the Black community. So it's interesting to say, well, they were just curious. Doesn't mean that because what if they didn't like it? So it's great to know that from your standpoint, you're not going to label anyone. What happens if you leave the rainbow? You know, are you leaving for good, or should it be fluid where you can come back to it? JB, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think you should do what's best for you, do what works for you. So if you leave the rainbow and you find love, like I have a friend, I'm not gonna put her name out there, but I have a friend who going through high school and even through college, like she was dating women, and you couldn't tell anybody that she probably wouldn't have ended up with a woman. I mean, a woman. So now she's, you know, she has a husband, she has 2 kids, you know, and she's just living a heterosexual lifestyle. And at the same time, she always says that if she were to become single or were to give a divorce or anything, she wouldn't just limit herself to looking at men again or looking at men still. She would still keep her options open. So personally, I feel like whatever you decide to do, once you leave, or I don't even think it's necessarily leaving, it's just, you know, going and doing what works for you, or, you know, messing with whoever you want to mess with at the time. You know, I also think that, you know, I don't know. It's just, I mean, the bottom line for me is that if you, it's what you want to do. You know, it's up to you. Whatever you decide that you want to do moving forward is how you move.
All right, and how about you, Dev?
Yeah, so my personal belief is that everyone is kind of a part of the rainbow. They just haven't realized it yet. Only because I truly believe that sexuality is fluid. Now, whether or not like you physically partake in a sexual experience with the same gender doesn't mean that you haven't, this might be, I don't know how explicit we're getting, but doesn't mean that you haven't experienced like gay or lesbian porn, right? Pornography. And seeing what that was about, and that kind of aroused you in a way, right? I just think that we're all fluid, but we're just on this fluidity spectrum is so large that we can be in any place, on it. So to answer your question directly, I think if you were to leave the rainbow, you never really left it because, you still may be interested in it. So, and everyone's already on it. So.
There's a thing too, like that me and Dev actually had a conversation about a long time ago. Dev, you were telling me about, I guess it's called the Kinsley scale or something like that.
Yeah, the Kinsey scale.
Yeah. Do you want to go deeper into that if you want, Dev, about how that works? Because you told me about it.
Yeah, sure. It's a scale. I don't want to misquote it, but I think, and anyone correct me please if I'm wrong, or if I misspeak on anything, but it's a scale from 0 to 6. I think 0 being completely straight and 6 being completely gay. And then there's quizzes out there that you can take to figure out where you fall in line with that. I'm a 4.5 apparently. So that's basically what it is. It's a scale from 0 to 6, 0 being completely straight, 6 being completely gay.
And what was the name of it again?
The Kinsey scale.
The Kinsey scale. All right. And Jordan, did you want to add anything about leaving the rainbow?
Well, yes, but it kind of gears off topic because I feel like, as Dev said, you're not leaving the rainbow because everybody technically is a part of it. Because I feel like where people get it wrong is they have designated ways to engage in sex. So, but I don't think there are designated ways to engage in sex. I think that there's sex. And then there's people who have sex. And then there are people who have sex with specific kinds of people. So you're heterosexual because you have sex with the opposite sex. But you're having sex. You can have whatever sex you want with that opposite sex person. And then you're gay if you have sex with the same gender. But you can have whatever sex you want in that. And I think that the rainbow people get it right in that we're able to have sex any which way that we desire and we enjoy it and we're free with it. Whereas heterosexuals sometimes, because they have designated certain types of sex in heterosexual engagements, that they have limited sex to what a sexuality is. But so I don't think that heterosexuals gets that correct, but I don't think you could leave the rainbow either. I just think that you don't realize technically you're a part of it.
Okay. And then I do want to introduce our new guest. Am I pronouncing that Cecily? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, I don't know if he can hear us. Uh-oh.
Okay. Did that work?
Yes, perfect. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Auntie comes in, doesn't know how to get on Zoom.
It's difficult.
I know. I'm here. I can hear you guys perfectly. Thank you for the introduction.
Did you want to chime in? Oh, before we do all that, we did kind of establish who's on the rainbow, who's not on the rainbow. If you want to elaborate, give a quick bio to our listeners really quick.
Oh, my name is Cecily Jamelia. I'm an actor, writer, also a host of a podcast on the network, The Privilege Show. Nice to meet you guys. I am not on the rainbow. I have rainbow folk in my family, and some of them I love very much. And so I'm very close to a lot that goes on in the community, and I'm a supporter of the community. Yeah.
And since this topic, do you have anything to add about leaving the rainbow, or you're in agreement that everyone's really already on there?
I do agree. I thought that was a really smart response. I think that everyone does have a place. I just think that what was kind of funny is that what the young lady was saying was that we do have these constructs of what we believe what norms are. And for some people it can be limiting, and for some people it can be free. And the reality is that we're all domesticated. We're all told to act a certain way and be a certain way. And I think that if anybody's able to find their own freedom in life, that's a version of heaven on earth. And so if you can find that for yourself and not disturb anybody else's process, then go for it. I'm trying to get mine right now. So you get yours, it's all good.
Now, this last topic before I move on, what do you do when your significant partner has experienced childhood trauma? When do you tell them? So, Cecily, let's start with you, and then we'll work our way around.
So it's when do you tell if you've experienced childhood trauma?
Yes.
I'm in my 40s now, and I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest with you. From relationship to relationship, you kind of figure out what's okay to say, what's not okay to say. And I experiment. With the last relationship, I divulged nothing. I gave that person nothing, not from the childhood traumas to some of the things I experienced later in life. And I wanted to see how that person would see me, the victimless version of me, the way I perceive myself. And to be honest with you, it was a peaceful interaction, but I also felt like I was stifled. I felt like issues that stemmed from other things that happened, and that kind of the conversation, if it did come up, it was loaded and that person did not know where it was coming from. My most current relationship, he got it all up front. And that's the kind of how we roll. He's that kind of person too. It does make conversations challenging because when you love on each other, you don't want to, your partner doesn't feel like they're your enemy. So even though we have our trauma, sometimes we're still protecting ourselves from hurt from any source. So that could be a hurtful response from your partner to, hey, why are you acting like that? But it's like, hey, this is something that I have to get through. I think that if you can have that conversation without judging yourself, then you're good. Because I think that's the only judgment that really matters. And I feel like we punish ourselves a lot more often than other people punish us. And if we can get beyond that, I think that could allow us to heal.
All right. And how about you, Dev?
It's a case by case situation for me because I just feel like some people deserve that part of me and some people don't. Right? Like how I think how they move is how I will react. And vice versa, I'm sure, right? But some people just don't deserve to know that part of me. And yeah, I guess if for someone that does this, or, I feel like they can learn that bit of me, it just, it's all about vibes for me, I guess, in a relationship, put it that way. It's all about the vibe.
Okay. How about you, JB?
Yeah, so, I agree definitely with Cecily and Deb. But what I've been doing as of recently is trying to give that type of information in the beginning, only because I feel like right from the jump, it builds like trust and they know that I'm honest with them. Also, it doesn't give, it lets me like have a little room with the things that I have going on. So like we're all not perfect. We all have things going on. So if I express myself in a way that they're not familiar with, then hopefully by me divulging my traumas early on when we're dating, they'll understand where that is coming from, and they won't be so harsh on responding, when something happens that, stemmed from my trauma. So just like Deb, I do believe it is case by case, but for the most part, to eliminate, them coming out at the end and then me feeling like I wasted a ton of time, with not telling them this, and then they're finding out traumas later on in our relationship, and then they can't accept it, or they can't meet us where we're at, or meet me where I'm at. And then I feel left and abandoned because they can't they can't, take it. Then, for the most part, I decided to like let it be known in the beginning and say, here, this is what it is. This is what I experienced. Can you deal with it or can you not? If you can, then let's move forward. If you can't, then let's just become friends or cut our losses and move forward.
All right. And you, Jordan, because that was your big thing. Your big thing wasn't body count, it was trauma. So can you go on to detail with that?
Yes, I want to know the traumas right up front because I need to know how you're going to respond or act. And you also need to know that about me because what'll happen is you may trigger me. And then if you trigger me and you get a response and you don't know what it's from, then here we are now with all types of walls and barriers that now we have to overcome. versus understanding that if I have abandonment issues, then your communication should probably be on point, because I don't need you to be late, or else I'm going to have anxiety, and then I'm going to say something or do something that causes a problem. So I need to know right up front. I don't care about your body count. I need to know trauma. I need to know what triggers you, and you need to know what triggers me. Mm-hmm.
So I have one more statement before we move on to mental health. I do have someone who is transgender. They transitioned from female to male, and I asked them, when would be a good time to tell your partner when you transitioned, if at all? And I know we have this all, it's up to the people and the vibe, but in the Black community, if you're dealing with a heterosexual man and you don't tell them that you went from male to female, it can be dangerous for them. Mm-hmm. So this person responded, you tell them when you're comfortable with that person. For some, that might be right away. For others, it may be never. What time is right is not mine or anyone else's choices to push into others. Now, I have only a slight problem with that, because the never part takes away my choice. Because as a heterosexual woman, this is going to be controversial, I want to have kids. So if you went from female to male and then we never have kids and I'm trying to find out why, and then you never told me that, oh, well, I can't have kids. Like, wait a minute. We didn't have this discussion. I feel like you took away my choice and my option. And yeah, we could do in vitro, but now it's like, well, then, you have a whole nother life in your past and different traumas and experiences I had no clue about. So it changes everything. So I would like to know what you guys' thoughts are, and we can start off with JB.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question for me. I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm in the middle. I mean, to be completely honest, even being in the community, there's times when I feel like, yeah, be honest at the jump and give someone that choice to make the decision if they do want to move forward in that type of space. But then also just knowing and having trans friends that, go through a lot of emotional trauma with divulging this information, and some end up getting murdered, even telling them from the jump, like especially Black trans women, some are petrified to tell their partners, even in the beginning of dating or doing anything, because their partner most of the time feels, already disrespected by just entertaining someone that is trans, So I totally get both sides. I'm in the middle. If I had to just pick for myself, if I'm speaking for myself, I guess, if I was in either situation, if I was on the receiving end of dating someone trans and I was a cis straight man, Black man, I would say that I would want to know up front. Please tell me up front, only because I like transparency in everything. I'm a very open-minded person, and that goes for everything. Very, very open-minded person. Once I feel like someone can't be completely honest with me, after me telling them how open-minded I am and supporting them in anything that they do, and they still choose to hold that back, then, to each his own, but you're probably not right for me because you don't trust me enough, even in the beginning, to even accept you as you are.
Thank you for that. And Cecily, can you go next?
I think that like JB, I would want to know up front. I feel like even if visually you look like a man, I was interested, I was attracted, we had good chemistry and all the above, I still feel like there's a part of yourself you can't share with me, and I would be anxious about what else I don't know. So even, if you couldn't trust me enough to share this part of your life or a huge decision, I mean, that means you omit a lot, like your life growing up, what was like playing as kids, just so many things that you have to, and I think everyone has the right to recreate themselves over and over again, but we still do have these experiences. You can't negate that. And that would always kind of leave me a little, if I found out, I'd have been extremely hurt. But if, even if we were able to get over it, I don't think I'd ever trust that person fully.
And then I know, Jordan, you said you were fine with the never part. Can you explain on that part?
Because we're not in a free world. We are in a freer society than we have been, but I believe in you doing your due diligence. So in getting to know people, you start to hear and see reference clues of certain things. Now, I don't want to be lied to, but if for whatever reason I don't see childhood photos, then I'm getting to know you. I'm going to start asking deeper questions, and then I'll get to know. But because especially trans Black women, have such a rightful fear of relaying that information, then I'm okay because I want them protected too. So I'm okay with them never divulging that because that could be their life, the last thing that they do. So I am okay with not divulging it at all if it doesn't come up, because, which with me it would. Again, I ask deeper questions. So if everyone does their due diligence, then you will come across it, and it will be a safe place to speak in a safe space. But no, I don't think that that it's safe for trans people to say it up front. So I'm okay if I met a woman who was transgendered into a man. If I didn't know that up front, I wouldn't be offended because I understand that they have to be more careful. So I'm okay with not knowing. I don't think that it would ever get to never knowing, because after a while, like Stephanie brought up, yeah, if you're talking about having kids, well, yeah, now it's time for me to know. And I don't think that it would change my love. But yeah, it would begin to change the dynamic of how we operate. And I would be okay with that if I was in love. I would be okay with that.
And then Deb, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree with everyone 100%. What I sympathize with, though, with regard to trans people is as a queer man and having an experience of coming out, the fact that trans people have to come out over and over and over and over again can become taxing and traumatizing for them, right? So I completely get why sometimes they're just like, look, I'm not going to give you that information right now because I don't want to experience that again with you right now. So I see it on that end as well, but I agree with everything everyone said.
Okay. So now let's go over to when to tell about mental health issues. So when it comes to this, it's a big deal because when you're dating someone, do you tell them right away? Because it will eventually affect not only the relationship, but in the future of having kids. Because you might not want to pass that trait down, or even if it's hereditary or not. So when do you tell about mental health issues? Let's start off with, who went last? Deb, you went last.
Yeah. We earlier a little, we were just talking about having, the possibility of having kids and stuff a little while ago with regard to trans people. For me, I would want to know as soon as possible.
Okay.
I just want to know how I can move. How am I supposed to move? I'm dating someone right now actually that has ADHD, and he told me right up front that he has it. And I'm glad he did, because the way that I have to communicate with him is very different than how we're communicating right now. Very, very different. So yes, I would like to know because of kids, for my children's sake, and also so I can know how to maneuver with you through this relationship.
Right, and JB?
Now that I believe it's a real sensitive topic, and when Jordan was talking about just the trans experience, and also Deb chimed in about how difficult it is to express that information and to give that type of information. When it comes to mental health, I guess it really just I don't know. I guess it just depends on what type of mental health it is as well, and what specifically they're dealing with. If it's something that they feel like they have to be medicated for, and I think that's something that I would want to know, just so I can know, like, just in case something happens, they have a seizure, or, if I have to do anything to help them out. But if it's something that they're working with and they're working through, and they're just completely, it's just a mental health that they've been dealing with and going to therapy and everything like that, I'm comfortable with them telling me when they feel comfortable with telling me. There's no rush for me.
When you're speaking, that reminds me of Kanye, because I don't think when Kim and Kanye first got married, I don't think she knew he had mental health issues, or he had it and he didn't tell her about it. So would she be fine to divorce him now? Because now he knows he's bipolar. So, Cecily, do you want to kind of not own the Kanye part, but your 2 cents on that?
I found out later in life that I had mental health issues. I found out in my late 30s, and I still my parents from the South, so they come from that we just pray it away kind of thing. And so I just thought I had my quirks and ways of getting through things. I didn't realize that there was a better way of doing stuff. And I was in a relationship at the time. And I told that man that, this is what I'm finding out about myself, anxiety and depression, and I'm choosing to get on medication to regulate it. And I wanted him to be supportive because the relationship was stressing me out.
Yeah.
And there was a point, I was in an outpatient situation. It was about 9 sessions. And I remember right before the first session I went in, I felt so low. And I was like, I looking at the person on their last day, so happy. And I was like, how do I get back to that? Day 9's there and I'm there. And I'm like, wow. And I've seen the people around the room who were where I was 9 days prior. And I called my boyfriend to tell him that story. And he cut me off and he said, you know how selfish it is for you to want to be in a relationship right now? I think that you shouldn't want to be in a relationship because you're damaged. And I remember thinking like, that's really foul. And so I was really scared to tell people for a while, but like something came through and I just started blurting it out in conversation. So I don't do a presentation of this is what I have. It comes out naturally. And, especially if there's someone keeps stepping on a trigger or something like that, I'll say, hey, like, this is a thing that is bothering me. And if you want to know why I'm reacting to it, this is the landmine that you're setting off for me. And that, I think that's okay. And it's okay if you don't want to deal with me because you don't want to deal with the highs and lows and all that too. It's your choice.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Jordan, and what comment do you have to add to that?
Pretty much the same as far as wanting to know up front, not for judgmental reasons, but just to know what we can do, and I'm talking more so on the basis of an actual relationship. Like if we just met at the club and you took me home, unless, there's going to be a situation where there's some type of Tourette's that I need to know about while we getting busy. But other than that, if it's not, I'm speaking on long term, then absolutely, if we are gearing towards long term, I need to know how to help, because there are more ways to help than just, having some sense of support, like patting you on the back while you're going through what you're going through. Sometimes you may need me to sit in silence with you. That's it. And so just to help, I would like to know up front as far as long-term goals.
Okay. Now we have a little less than 2.5 minutes left. The last question I have for everyone is when to tell about your finances when it comes to bad credit, because this is the number one cause of divorce. Well, number 2 it's up there. So, because it's leading to the divorce rate. When do you tell about your bad credit? Jordan, go first.
Right away. I'm a victim of joining in a marriage and the finances were jacked up, and 6 years later we're still climbing, and actually we're on the brink of divorce because bad finances and mismanagement of funds lead to all of our arguments, every single one of them. And they point and they start to point fingers. Well, you didn't pay this on time and you didn't do this. So in the door, if my marriage doesn't last, but I'm hoping for the best and we're working towards better days. But if I'm dating the next time and it gets serious, I'm asking about how you manage, how you pay bills, what are your savings, and what's your credit score. And if you find that that's too personal, then I don't need to be with you because my future is at stake now because I know better. So right away from my bitter, bad experiences.
All right, JB, what do you have to say?
Yeah, definitely right away with me. Like I said earlier in the conversation, I'm a pretty understanding guy, an open guy, so I know that I'll be able to work with that. I mean, 6 years of working with it. I mean, child, listen, I mean, I'm patient and everything like that, but I do feel like it's important to give that information in the beginning, just so everybody know where they're meeting people, where you're meeting somebody, and then help from there.
All right. I will have to end this a little bit early because I don't want it to end on us. I want to thank you all for coming in and giving your input. This was a great show. And then this will air on Thursdays, I believe. If you guys have any more questions or topics, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be the co-host of the Debate Talks, and then I have my own show, a recast that will be airing out later on this month. Any final words? Because I don't want to have anything cut off. Dev, do you have anything final to say?
Just, I love this conversation. I love that all of us, men, women, people of color, we can come together.
It's only entertainment.